Should we give hard drugs like heroin, cocaine, methamphetamines to little children? It's kind of a no-brainer, right? Of course we don't want to, although it happens today with the drug war. But the real libertarian position on drugs is that our society should be such that the government has no right, no role, no authority in that decision, that they should not be involved in drugs at all. That's really the position that I'm going to defend here, that we should have the right to give hard drugs to little kids, or at least that the government should play no role in that process. Is the drug war a success or a failure? Well, it's both. I'm an economist, so I'm always doing on the one hand this and on the other hand that. And the drug war is a stunning success and a miserable failure, depending upon how you look at it. The drug warriors have been very successful. They've arrested tons and tons of people and sent them to jail for long periods of time, very often for small amounts of drugs. They've confiscated huge amounts of drugs, tons and tons and tons of marijuana, millions of doses of heroin, millions of vials of crack cocaine or cocaine. If you look at the drug war in terms of those statistics, in terms of property confiscation, drug confiscation, number of people arrested, number of people prosecuted, number of years people are being imprisoned for, boy, they've been just an awesome. But on the other side, it's a complete failure. Despite all of those statistical victories, no one would deny the fact that illegal drugs are readily available just about everywhere. They sell drugs on the streets of Washington, D.C., right down the corner from the Drug Enforcement Agency. The drugs are available for sale inside federal prisons. They're sold inside public schools. It's secret, not always out in the open. Now the big trick is just go to the doctor and have a prescription written. So they really haven't made any kind of dent whatsoever in overall drug usage, in overall drug abuse, and overall damage that results from misusing, from abusing, or even from accidentally using drugs in general. So on that line, and I think that's the important line, the drug war has been a complete and utter failure. Prohibition provides us with no benefits. It doesn't save anybody. It doesn't prevent access to anything. It doesn't have any benefits to offset the cost. Drug prohibition makes things worse. The potency of drugs, that's a big issue. Any kind of prescription drug, for example, any kind of pharmaceutical, they do a lot of testing to figure out, should we give them 3 milligrams, 4 milligrams, 6 milligrams? The amount of deliverable drug in a dose is very important. It's strictly controlled. It's one of the things that drug companies are always concerned about is every pill has to go out of our manufacturing site with exactly the same dose to have proper medical effect. In illegal markets, the potency of drugs is not determined. Every little dealer, every little farmer produces a different product, a different potency of marijuana, heroin, cocaine, all of those products that go out onto the street. Every little batch comes out differently. And one of the big tendencies that we see in illegal markets is for drugs to become more and more potent as the police make more and more efforts to suppress the drug trade. Prohibition is supposed to make society better, it's supposed to reduce crime, but it certainly hasn't done that. Most of the corruption, well over half, is associated with the drug war. It was supposed to clean things up, but it's actually made things much worse. The idea was if people didn't have access to these intoxicants, then they wouldn't go out and commit crimes. Early surveys of prisoners in state prisons and in federal prisons, they would go in and ask them, why did you commit this crime? Why did you rob that house? Why did you kill that person? Was it the alcohol? Was it the drugs? And they'd say, yeah, it was the alcohol. It was the alcohol's fault. I wouldn't have done it myself. And so there's been this myth perpetuated that people on drugs commit a lot of crimes. And that's really not true. It does happen, but it's not a significant source of crime. What is a significant source of crime is the drug trade itself. And is the secondary effects, the drive-by shootings, gangs.
Get down. Oh
my God. Where do gangs come from? Gangs basically are economic organizations that are designed to profit from controlling the retail drug trade in a certain area. Gangs usually fight because they're fighting for territory. The first gangs in the United States, really the significant type of gangs, started during alcohol prohibition. Penalties on children, those who are 18 and younger, for being in the drug trade as runners or dealers are so much lower than anybody over 18. If you get caught and you're an adult, it's like 10 years. But if you're 15, 14, they might end up letting you go. So that encourages people to bring children into the drug trade. So on all those counts and many others, I think, drug prohibition actually makes things much worse in terms of all of the things that drug prohibition is supposed to help us with. Our legal system now is so geared to stopping the drug trade that we've basically given away many of our constitutional rights. They allow them to go beyond search and seizure, privacy. All of those constitutional guarantees have been set aside for the drug war. The fact that the military is involved in the drug war also goes against a long-standing legal tradition going back before the founding of this country that prohibits the military from engaging in local police action. So we have given up a lot and got nothing in return. Most people believe that if we legalize drugs, all we would get is more of the same. We get more drug use, we get more drug taking, more drug overdoses, more drug crime. A lot of people have in their mind the economist's tool of supply and demand. It's funny, despite my best efforts to teach supply and demand, a lot of people just don't get it. And yet, when it comes to something like this, everybody just intuitively knows it. Politicians, debaters, and so on and so forth think, well, if we legalize drugs, the price will fall, the quantity will increase, and all our problems will get much worse. But that's not necessarily true. Economists place a major emphasis on prices. Prices are the economic information of society. They direct resources. They encourage people into certain professions and out of other professions. But with prohibition, all of those other things that we hold constant change when you go from prohibition to legalization. In other words, everything we know about the market for illegal drugs would not be true about the legal market for drugs. Freedom is better. The market is better. The free market. When we look at illegal drugs, we're looking at the illegal market. Now, how would the market control the product? Markets control products. They want safe products. They want their products to be competitive. 50 years ago, just about everybody drank whiskey. That's changed where a lot more people drink beer. Now people are drinking wine because it's healthy for you. Now most beer is light beer. And now there's, of course, no alcohol beer. Cigarettes, 50 years ago, everybody smoked. And they smoked filterless cigarettes. They smoked them inside. You could even smoke in the hospital. Now, fewer people are smoking. Almost all cigarettes are filtered. And the majority of sales are for light cigarettes. And we could go on and look at other products, and we would see similar things where the products have become safer. Aspirin, pain relievers, all that kind of stuff. It's gotten cheaper, it's gotten better, it's gotten safer, more choices, and so on. That's the kind of thing you see in legal markets. Would kids actually be sold drugs in the marketplace? It's unlikely that Winn-Dixie Pharmacy is going to be selling hard drugs to little kids. Now, if I walked into Winn-Dixie Pharmacy and I went and bought an ounce of marijuana, a vial full of cocaine, and a bottle of heroin pills, and I used them and I hurt myself trying to open a bottle of whiskey, I dropped it on my foot and cut it open. And so I sued for negligence. Well, I might not have a great chance of winning that one. But if a 9-year-old girl walks in and buys those things and goes out and hurts herself real bad, then the type of negligence and the type of penalties that the legal system would impose would be tremendous. That's gross negligence. It's actually illegal to engage in valid contracts between an adult and a minor. Little kids would be sold hard drugs in the market, but it would be very, very limited. You have to admit that it's going to happen, but it would be a lot less than we see today. It's kind of a trick lecture where I say little kids should be sold hard drugs, but in reality, the market would do a great deal to prevent all that. Thank you very much.